Automatically. Thank you for helping. Okay, folks. So what we have here that you'll see with some visuals, because that really helps me to kind of learn and teach about different opportunities, is an overview of the Summer Immersion Program. We've been doing this, well, for a number of years now, actually, as a partnership between UC and Cooperative Extension as a special focus. And then my role, I am actually at the veterinary school at UC Davis, where Cooperative Extension is very active, but they're active across the state. So my role here is actually leading the Center for Planetary Health, which is within the UC Global Health Institute and within UCOP for the benefit of University of California. And the idea is to do a matchmaking process of sorts to help students find interesting summer opportunities because sometimes we talk with faculty mentors or specialists and advisors with UCANR, and they're like, wow, we'd love to have students involved in what we do. We'd love to mentor, but we don't know how to find the students. And the students are like, hey, we'd love to find new opportunities to pursue my special interest in rice or livestock, or, I have ideas on things I'd like to work on, but I don't really know how to go about finding someone who could mentor that experience. So that's the goal of the program is that we have some core funding and we can be able to explore how to introduce undergraduate or graduate students in the UC system to mentors that may be of interest that are involved in certain topics that you identify. And so I'll talk a little bit about how that works, but it's very flexible as far as the general topics you work on. I have had mentors and students reach out already, separate from this webinar, saying, hey, we want to participate again, or we want to explore what's possible for this year. So there is general interest in getting going on this process. So let me give you some details. Some of you may have seen the flyer that we have out. Certainly, something that we can share again. We have a website which has this information posted. So for the Summer Immersion Program for 2026, we will be exploring over the next couple of months, typically, doing that matchmaking process with students and with mentors. So you will see that we invite applications and we note a February 20th initial review date for mentors and students who have submitted them. But being able to know that it's going to be rolling. So even after that initial review, we still take additional applications from mentors and from students, and we just keep going until we've made as many matches as we can based on the interested people and the funding that we're able to allocate. Sometimes there's additional funding from folks who have separate grants. That's great. We're still happy to do the matchmaking if that is useful. And so that can open up additional opportunities. So for those of you who might be thinking about applying, if you apply, it's not a commitment that you have to do it. It's saying, I want to apply to learn more about what might be possible. And then we go from there to do some introductions, some little Zoom kind of informational interviews if you'd like to know more about what some of the mentors work on, and then can help to connect you so that you can put forward your project ideas in a way that would be a good fit with this program. And we usually end up cutting things off around mid-April because by that time, either the funds are allocated or people are starting to make other plans for summer, which is really the sweet spot where students have more flexibility to get out of the classroom and get into the communities and work with stakeholders in some pretty special ways. So you think about, what are the requirements? You need to be in good academic standing, but it is quite flexible as far as what program you're in UC. We want you to be, interested in learning new things and sharing new things. And so you can see some of the typical attributes that go along with participating in this program, and some examples of some of the previous types of activities that students have been able to really gain additional experience and pursue their projects. So it might be involving outreach programs with youth. It could be working with farms and farmers. It could be getting out there to, collect data that goes along with a certain research question you're interested in. Sometimes folks have been involved in different, creation or implementation of certain training materials online or in paper with the community. So it's really quite varied, which is both good and bad, right? If I gave you each a choice of like, which three things do you want to choose from? Maybe that makes it easier for you, but sometimes it's not quite as tailored. So we purposely want to help you build skills in the networking and interviews and, kind of how you explore opportunities as part of this program. We do have videos from students who've done this before on our website, so that can be a nice inspiration to see what it was like, what kinds of things were possible before. So I would invite folks to go to the website that Carolyn has shared, if you haven't seen it already. And the applications for students, for mentors, some of the videos from past students, they're all posted there. So it's a good place for a starting point to think about what might be possible. So if you want to learn a little more about why we do it the way we do it, we want to make sure that people are aware of the power of the 10 campuses and UC A&R and Cooperative Extension as a really important piece that spreads across the entire state. So we do want to think about how do we connect stakeholders and communities with what the university system can do. And cooperative extension is really a big part of that. So there are cooperative extension offices, there are the RECs, the Research and Extension Centers, the Ag Experiment Stations located, you can see them on that map. A nice diversity. So even if you're in school at UC San Diego, you might say, well, I'd really love to go do something up at Sierra Foothills Rec because it matches my interest in beef cattle. This is a way to start to meet people and explore whether that might be possible. So it's something that I would just invite you to reflect on your own goals for the summer and to think about what we can do to help make that possible. As you'll probably know, but if not, let's talk a minute about it. Cooperative extension and UCANR touch on many different topics. So you can see a few of the programs and topics here that have been very active. Anything from climate and health to water issues, wildfire and crops, lots of different things that have some sort of typically environmental and population aspect, at least in the things that I typically work on. And so I've really enjoyed meeting new people, training students, thinking about what's the impact that's possible if you get involved with cooperative extension, whether it's for a summer experience or later on as a career path. Sometimes people don't even know that this is possible. And so meeting folks who are doing it can be able to help students say, hey, yeah, this is for me, or no, not so much, but I still got a really productive experience out of my summer. UC Davis is a land grant university, the UC system. And there are others in the United States, but it does really help us kind of ground our teaching, research, and extension missions with what we do every day. So just raising awareness about how we work and what the history is of that. The Center for Planetary Health, which I mentioned, is something that does also spread across the state of California. We have um, actions and activities at all 10 campuses. And you can see photos of the other directors there. Federico is an environmental economist at UC Berkeley. Georgia Kaiser is in public health down at UC San Diego. Samantha Ying is a hydrologist at UC Riverside. And I'm at UC Davis as a veterinary epidemiologist. So I just mention it because we also can be a resource, not necessarily as mentors in this current summer program, but to help you find good people to work with over time, if that's something you'd like to explore on these various campuses or within the different disciplines that involve planetary health. The idea of planetary health, the term's a little bit new, I suppose, but probably the concepts are familiar to you guys. There's a lot of complex challenges that we face related to limited resources of water, of food. How do health challenges really get affected by these cross-cutting things that you can see in the picture on the left? Things like the social sciences with economics and behavior change, policy aspects, culture and society. All of those different cross-cutting topics affect the decisions we make for ourselves as well as for the organizations we work with. And so really being involved with health is not as simple as you have one disease and here's your medicine, right? It's the whole big picture of how do we think about health of different levels of individuals, of populations, of the environments that connect us all. And that's really what I like about working in this space of planetary health. We can think about what can we do to plan for the future? How do we adapt and change if we know environmental change is happening? And that's this One Health idea. A One Health approach is just recognizing that it's much more common now to be able to say there are relationships between people, animals, and the shared environments. And if we can work together on teams and collaborate across different disciplines, different sectors to solve some of these really pressing problems, then we're probably going to be more successful. We are stronger together than we are as individuals. So we know change is happening, right? The pictures on the left are in the same location, but for longer and longer throughout the year, this river is completely dry, and that affects the communities around it. So are there things that we can do to help them be resilient and adapt to that? Can we anticipate what's going to be needed with regard to growing tomatoes or the cherry blossoms that you see there? For almonds, it's a lot of different issues related to different parts of California and wanting to know what we can do in this connected system, right? So this is one of the ecosystems I work in, where I work on what's killing the sea otters. But really thinking about what's happening on land is very important because the things that are killing sea otters are actually parasites that are coming from opossums and from cats that are having fecal deposition that comes in from the waterways from land to sea. So what started as a simple thing as, what's killing these animals turned to a very complex situation of what's going on with the animals and the people that make it possible for those animals to live in these different contexts. And are there health risks that we should think about managing in the context of whatever it is you're particularly interested in? So the summer immersion program, kind of the who, what, when, where idea of the basics. So we want to provide students opportunities to pursue their special interests during the summer time. So that's going to be anywhere in the kind of June through September, depending on what cycle your school is on. It's relevant for graduates and undergraduate students. We do provide funding to as many as we can. So we do this matchmaking process. But what you're going to be thinking about is if you're working on a project or you're matched with a program for a summer opportunity here, usually it's going to be somewhere between 4 weeks and 10 weeks, given how summers go, right? So it doesn't have to be the whole summer. It can be part of the summer. You can work that out with your mentor. Um, there are possibilities for stipend support that can follow those projects. Occasionally, there's been a special interest in academic credit. That's kind of a case by case thing, depending on what the students and mentors are able to work out. But I'm always happy to facilitate those conversations. We're thinking about, do you have certain priorities for where you are in the state? What are the questions or research topics you're interested in? Are there certain training opportunities that really catch your eye as you look through some of the videos and activities that people have pursued before? So it is very flexible, but you do need to be a UC student. And if these types of things sound interesting, then what you would do is be able to go to the website, complete the student application, which does not have to say, I know exactly what I want yet. It's just saying, these are my interests or these are my current ideas. And sometimes that's enough for us to share that with some of the mentors that may have appropriate matched interests. And then you guys can brainstorm together on the special project or focus that might make sense for you during the summer. So can be part-time, can be full-time as far as other commitments. Sometimes it's remote, most often it's in person for at least part of it. So you do just get a chance to explore what would make sense with your mentors. And then the stipends we've been able to provide, if it's coming from our core funds, is somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 per project. If the mentors have other grants that they have support on, then that's another conversation that can be leveraged. But again, we want to help you find good people to work with and just see where those conversations might lead. So that's the general idea. If you would end up participating in this, we have found it's both good experience and really fun for those who come after you to create a little 3-minute video based on your summer project or your summer focus. And so those are what we post on the website for anyone who's interested to be able to have that going on. So I think that's kind of the big overview here. Just a few tips that we often share for those who are new to thinking about this. Really be actively engaged, make the most of the opportunities. Things will come up that you didn't expect, but that also can turn into good things. So being able to just be a little bit empowered to be proactive and explore what's possible, ask questions, really be involved versus kind of holding back and then wishing you had done more later. Certain health and safety policies, of course, will always be in play, but we want to be able to just give you the ability to explore and then figure out what you would be excited about. And if we're able to put together combinations of mentors and students that are wanting to work together, then we consider that a match. And then we will do as that for as many people as we can. So you're welcome to reach out beyond today's webinar to our website and to the email that you see here. That will reach a few of us, and we can then pull in additional people where we need it. But the overall goal would be if you know you're interested, and we've already had some applications come in from mentors and students, submit your application by mid-February to be in that first initial review cycle. If it's after that, it's still possible, but we will do kind of a rolling review from there. So this is some of the basic information we've got. I'll go ahead and stop my share so we can be able to see each other again. And then let me pause our recording.